Previously, we discussed the mechanism of formation of corpus luteum and corpus luteum function. Today, we are going to further discuss about the maternal recognition of pregnancy, a dynamic crosstalk between the embryo and the endometrium to sustain the pregnancy to complete the complete length of gestation. Now, the two fun facts for today's class is that PGF2 alpha is of ovarian origin in case of primates. PGF2 alpha is of uterine origin in case of ruminants. This is fun fact number one. Number two, maternal recognition of pregnancy occurs in case of ruminants, which is mediated by the interferon tau, but which is mediated by the human chorionic gonadotropin or chorionic gonadotropin beta in case of primates. So with these two fun facts, let us dig into further details of maternal recognition of pregnancy. Guys, have you ever thought that how the embryo survives in the uterus? Why the uterus is not taking the embryo as foreign? How the embryo talks with the endometrial cells, that is the luminal epithelial cells and surface glandular cells, what they talk with each other so that the embryo survives there. For the survival of the conceptus inside the uterus, what kind of mechanisms occur, and that's what known as maternal recognition of pregnancy. That means the uterus knows that already I am having a conceptus and I have to protect the conceptus for the entire period of gestation. It was a very dynamic phenomenon, and this was first time told by Roger Sott in the year 1969, and after that multiple concepts came out in the area with a vast number of research or experimental research, and the model animal is sheep, and in case of primates, that is the monkeys. Monkeys are the experimental animals. So what we are going to discuss today, I have divided into two parts. The first part will deal how the maternal recognition of pregnancy occurs, what is its physiological basis, how endocrine signaling occurs, what hormones are involved in that process, and in the second, the part 2 will discuss how this maternal recognition of pregnancy occurs in case of primates. Because in order to understand that, we must understand the physiological basis, and that is the main theme or the major theme of this particular lecture. So we should understand what actually has happened and how this phenomenon is going on. Let's draw a flow chart to see what's going on inside the female body. So this is the sperm cells, this is the oocyte, and it is the process of fusion, what we say as the fertilization. This fertilization gives rise to the zygote, the unicellular zygote. This is haploid N, this is haploid N, and fertilization leads to production of the cell that is known as zygote. The zygote undergoes series of mitotic divisions which are known as the cleavage, and this cleavage leads to formation of 2 cell, 4 cell, 8 cell, 16 cell, 32 cell stage embryos, and they are known as morula, gastrula, and then blastula followed by the gastrula. Like this the process goes on, and then the extraembryonic membranes are formed and fully formed embryo comes. So let us discuss like this. That is morula, I can say in the 8 cell stage, then it further divides, that's we can say blastula, that is 16 cell stage, and from there now it goes into the uterus. So in the uterine endometrium it gets attached, and that process is known as the implantation. So the story begins from here. This the picture you are seeing. This is in oviduct, and this is what you are seeing inside the uterus. If the implantation is successful, then the pregnancy survives. Implantation will continue to formation of extraembryonic membranes, placentation, and the gestation will complete. That's the story. So here the story is like this. Up to this, you can say cleavage divisions, you are somewhat mediated in the surface of the oviduct. Yes, this is inside the oviduct, and here I am at the surface of the uterine endometrium. As you know that uterus is having 3 layers. The innermost layer is the endometrium, where an inflammatory like process is required for the successful attachment of the embryo to carry out the process of gestation, and that process is known as implantation, which will be further converted into this process that's what known as placentation, and thereby the full term gestation or the pregnancy will continue in normal physiology. So here you are seeing two organs, and these sperm and oocyte, they are coming from the gametogenic organs of the gonads. Now if you understand this one, let's further go into the ovary. What has happened to the ovary? The oogenesis has completed, then the folliculogenesis has occurred. And when we say this is a simultaneous process. We know that the follicular maturation is going on, recruitment, selection, dominance, these are the common processes, after which we are having the matured follicle, which is the concern for all of us, matured follicle, and which is converted to a dominant follicle, which is going to responding to the different hormones. And we know that in the dominant follicle, the master cells, that is the granulosa cells, these are the cells which are secreting the estrogen, and this hormone is the key hormone which has played the important role in two functions. The number one function of the estrogen is to provide a central LH surge, and this LH surge, it is the demand for the tonic secretions of LH, and this high secretion of LH will carry out the process of ovulation. So one is LH surge, and the second function that is being carried out by this estrogen is the behavioral stress. So once we are saying behavioral stress, means the female animal is in heat. It shows the excessive tendency of sexual acceptance of the male, and that's why the behavioral stress is being mediated by estrogen. So this is the status, and once due to the LH surge, now the process has occurred, that's ovulation, and after ovulation inside the ovary you are getting a very important structure that's known as corpus luteum. And try to understand, this corpus luteum is secreting the most important hormone, that which is going to regulate the process of implantation, regulate the process of placentation. That means that master hormone is the progesterone. So this is the picture of ovary, this is the picture of the oviduct and the uterus. It means now the process is very easy. The process is going very smooth. Up to now we are very clear. The corpus luteum, how it is being formed, already I have explained. After that formation, the corpus luteum life is important, because I am always saying that process of pregnancy is going to have an end, a successful end, when progesterone is continuously secreted from the corpus luteum. I know species differences are there. Mare is not dependent. Means in case of horses, placenta plays a very important role. But here in this case, at least we need 4 to 6 months of gestation. That corpus luteum must be present inside the ovary. Now this real story begins. Up to now, the embryo is fine. It is going, it is showing the rolling movement inside the oviduct. It reaches the uterine endometrium, and a number of processes occur. Stay tuned for my next lecture on implantation. So there you will see how it gets implanted. For the time being, just think that the implantation has occurred. These cells has penetrated, these embryonic cells have been penetrated into the uterine endometrium. Now what happens? There are two possibilities. The number one possibility is that, this point to be noted, the number one possibility that this corpus luteum will stay alive, and once it will stay alive, it will go on secreting the progesterone, which is going to maintain the pregnancy. That's one point. But we should not forget there is another possibility is there. The corpus luteum may not sustain its own life. It may undergo luteolysis, and if it is undergoing luteolysis, then the progesterone secretion is going to be stopped arbitrarily, and that which leads to the process which is known as implantation failure, and the next process which starts, that's being known as your menstrual cycle, or you can say the estrous cycle. So here when I am using the word behavioral estrus, that is the day 0 of the estrous cycle, and now after this estrus, of course the diestrus has taken place. That's from the one day at almost from 1 day to 4 days, the corpus luteum has fully formed. But from that 4 day to 10 days or 12 days, in case of a cattle, I'm saying it is going to fully form corpus luteum and full secretion of progesterone. Now focus on this point. This is the final part of this lecture, and this will bring your attention what's actually going on. So think in this way, that the implantation has occurred, embryo is surviving. If you can see the embryo, it is the zona pellucida, and here you are seeing an outer layer of cells, and this outer layer of cells is known as the trophoblast cell layer, which is present outside, and this is the inner cell mass or the embryonic knob, which is going to give rise to the extra embryonic membranes. So, and that cavity is known as the blastocell. So here, these are the strophoblast cells which are uninucleated. Sometimes these are binucleated, depending on the species. We'll discuss that, but it is out of the respect of this class. So these trophoectodermal cell, and that too particularly mononuclear. Mononuclear means single nucleus. Mononuclear trophoectodermal cells. These trophoectodermal cells, they secrete a glycoprotein. We are today concerned about the ruminant maternal recognition of pregnancy. So that's why I'm very much confined to this word glycoprotein. That means protein with glycosylation. And this is known as the most important point and the very, very important point of this particular lecture. That's known as interferon tau. This interferon tau is the master molecule. When I ask the question, how an embryo talks with the endometrium, what the endometrium replies, and secondly, what the endometrium talks with the embryo and what it replies. So that's known as the crosstalk, and that's the beauty of this lecture. That's the beauty of the science, rather, you can say. So in this interferon tau is the master regulation of this corpus luteum life. That's what we are concerned. Means it will maintain the corpus luteum in the ovary. That's what we require. And due to this corpus luteum, the progesterone secretion will be maintained. Now, important questions are coming to your mind. What is the role played by this interferon tau? If it is not there, then why we are saying the corpus luteum is undergoing lysis? Means why the luteolysis is going on? Reverse question. If the corpus luteum is present because of interferon tau, then what interferon tau do? So to answer these questions, we must understand who is that culprit who is causing the corpus luteum to die. Who is that culprit? Where from it is secreted? Why not in the presence of interferon tau? Those are the points, and those are the answering points. So the point is that we require a pulsatile release of various pulses of around 4 to 6 pulses of important, that is prostaglandin F2 alpha. This prostaglandin F2 alpha, in my fun fact told, that is secreted from the ovary in case of primates, but in case of these ruminants, it is secreted from uterine endometrium. Now the take home message is that PGF2 alpha is required for the corpus luteum to undergo the process of luteolysis. It means this particular process, interferon tau, it will not allow the synthesis as well as the secretion of PGF2 alpha. So this is the message of this class. How maternal recognition occurs, what is its beauty? So I have given a very big foundation to all of you to remember that how beautifully our body is being designed in such a way that it is mediating the secretion of interferon tau. If it is a human body or a primate body, that's known as human chorionic gonadotropin or chorionic gonadotropin beta. But if it is a ruminant, then it is of course interferon tau. In different animals, how pregnancy recognition occurs, I will take another lecture. So with this overview, this particular lecture came to an end. Now in the coming part, what we are going to discuss, now what is that master molecule interferon tau, what it is actually carrying out. So before concluding this class, let us draw another beautiful flow chart. This is the first flow chart we drawn, and the next other beautiful flow chart to show what actually going on during the time of maternal recognition of pregnancy. So let us draw that so that we can understand what actually the features are and how these features are mediating the process of this. So stay tuned for my lecture. I am coming with one of the most diligent flowcharts which will further explain us the mechanisms by which this interferon tau is being secreted and what it is causing. So stay tuned for my next lecture. Let us discuss interferon tau in that. Thank you so much. Keep learning. If you are liking my content, my lecture, it is benefiting you, please put a like and subscribe my channel for the growth of the channel. Thank you so much.